And as the teams exit the tunnel, Luxembourg will need to continue to play their fast, clever, technical game and try to avoid the arm wrestle of the stronger physical Swedes. Sweden themselves obviously will try to dominate, something that Luxembourg are used to, but Sweden will quickly attempt to dominate the game and control proceedings. Following the Rugby Europe anthem, we now hear the national anthem of Sweden. National anthem of Luxembourg. blue. And this will be the first game within 2 weeks that Luxembourg will play, and it will be against two teams of that top mini league, Sweden today and Poland next week. Luxembourg will very much be underdogs in this game, as they tend to be since their promotion into the trophy series. It's something that Luxembourg will not be concerned about. They're used to it. They'll stick to their game style. And with a new coaching setup, with James Kent at the helm now, Luxembourg will attempt to prove the odds wrong and come away with points against a strong Swedish team that we've seen over the last 12 months. Sweden themselves will be looking for points in order to compete with Poland and Czech Republic in this trophy series. And as we kick off, Luxembourg put the ball high up into the Sweden 22, which is gathered by Sweden. They try to play it out through hands. Luxembourg more than happy to have Sweden in their own 22, but here we go. Sweden clear the ball out into touch over the halfway line. Just inside the halfway line, in fact. Ball taken by Luxembourg in the line out, and the fly half trickles the ball over back into the 22, and it's cleared back into Luxembourg's half, who scrum half sails up a nice Gary Owen, which is gathered by Sweden. Luxembourg chase the ball, scrum half again, and Sweden are camped within their own 22 for the second time in this early stage of the game. And for the second time they clear, this time just beyond the halfway line. Luxembourg appearing to want to put pressure on with the territory kicking in these early stages. Sweden having no option but to exit from their own 22 with a kick of their own. A few questions being asked between the teams there after that line out. Sweden joining the line out late. And the ball goes in, gathered by Sweden. The scrum half gets it out. Sweden pass the ball out to their left wing, kick through into the Luxembourg 22. It will be a Luxembourg line out. So excellent conditions here in Luxembourg City at the Stade de Luxembourg. It's been a sunny, if not that warm a day. Bright blue sky, perfect conditions for rugby. Perfect conditions for passing rugby. But at this stage in the game, both teams find themselves having to put foot to ball, seeking territory. Although Luxembourg went into contact there on the edge of their own 22 and win the penalty. Yet again we'll kick to touch. Luxembourg looking to play the territory game, not wanting to be in their own half. So it's a number of line outs around the halfway line that we're witnessing here at the moment. And as I say, perfect conditions for rugby. The sun appears to be cut by the stadium roof. The surface of the pitch appears dry, in good condition, which bodes for a potentially nice game of rugby. When Luxembourg have the ruck under control, they run into contact. Again, the fly half plays it out. The inside centre kicks it up, which is gathered by Sweden but contested by Luxembourg. Sweden get the ball out from the prevailing ruck. Once again, Sweden from midway between their own 22 and the halfway line decide to kick it to the Luxembourg half, and Luxembourg opt that now is not the time to kick, but this time they will from their 22. Finton Lawler clears the ball up. Sweden gather into contact, and the Luxembourg defence moves up. Maybe a little bit too quickly. The referee is calling an infringement there. Sweden will take the penalty, and once again, as we've seen in these first 5 minutes, we kick for territory. So unlike the last game in the trophy series here in the Stade de Luxembourg, where Luxembourg faced Croatia and raced to a 21-point lead, here we have quite a different cagey encounter. Plenty of line-outs, plenty kicking for territory, and Sweden have the ball inside the Luxembourg half. Luxembourg defence holding up strong there, and this is where we will see Sweden happy with the territory, so happy to play the ball through hands, testing their physicality, and so far Luxembourg facing up to that physicality. Sweden winger trying to break a gap through the Luxembourg defence, but it's wrapped up. Competing on the floor for the ball. The referee's not happy. But now, after a very cagey 7 minutes, Sweden finally have the territory that they want. And they have a line out in the 22 of Luxembourg, where they will look to exert pressure. The ball is gathered. Immediately Sweden gather the ball into a maul, banking on their physicality against the Luxembourg side. Luxembourg trying to hold them back, but the maul collapses, and Sweden then try to swing the ball out to the left, very central to the posts. Luxembourg hold Sweden up. Again, once again, the referee not happy, and this is very dangerous position now for Luxembourg to defend. So, the referee speaks to the Luxembourg players there,
let's go, boys! Scrum time, fun time!
asking them about their defence.
Watch out, number 8!
So scrum. Sweden to put in at the scrum. On the offensive. But the scrum not holding up. The referee will reset this scrum, and Sweden will get a second bite of the cherry. So, scrum number 2, reset.
What's on number 8? Goalie, number 8.
Sweden scrum half prepares, feeds the ball in. Sweden push the Luxembourg pack back. The number 8 is playing the ball and he picks and goes as he has the right to do, but Luxembourg push Sweden back from under their posts. And they'll look to be jackling over here to win that ball back, to get the penalty. It's a very, very messy situation here, but Sweden won't mind that. They're where they want to be territory-wise. And Luxembourg just want to defend with all their might. But finally, the defense cannot hold up. And Sweden score a try with the opportunity to add to the 5 points that brings, to bring it up to 7 as we enter the 11th minute of the game. So this will be exactly the start that Sweden wanted, keeping it simple, using the territory and taking the points when they can. Luxembourg will want to break this up. They won't want to get into a conservative game of just kick for territory. They will want to play in territory, but they will want to be inventive and quick off the feet. They won't want to go into contact. But Sweden have what they want at the moment. And they have 7 points to show for it. So, following the successful conversion, Luxembourg restart the game with a high ball up into the 22. Choby Sweetenham goes for the ball, doesn't gather but gets back in the defensive side. And Sweden are once again camped inside their own 22. Exactly where Luxembourg will want to be, but possession counts for everything at this stage. And a high ball from Sweden. It doesn't get quite the distance they might have wanted. There's more height on that kick than distance. Nevertheless, they are edging to the halfway line. So Luxembourg with the advantage of the territory now inside the Sweden half. Lining up to win possession, which they do. Not the cleanest possession, but the ball is out. And Luxembourg played through their backs into contact. And the ruck is maintained. The player goes up in the air. Luxembourg player had his legs lifted above his head and he lands on the floor on his shoulders. The referee will have a decision here now. They will get the penalty. But having lifted the player so his legs are above the axis and being entered into the ground, the referee quite rightly, whatever the circumstances, accidental or not, result in Sweden losing a player. So we will have Sweden playing with 14 men for the next 10 minutes. Luxembourg, from the resulting penalty for the spear challenge, if we can call it that, have decided to kick to the post to get some points on the board, to reduce the deficit to 4 points. And Fintan Lawler, who this season has been very, very successful with his kicking, will hope that today he can maintain. And indeed, just over the halfway line, Fintan Lawler sails the ball over the post for a 3-point penalty. And we have a score as we enter the 14th minute of Luxembourg 3, Sweden 7. We'll wait for the Sweden players to clear the extra ball off the pitch before they restart the game. And having been 7 points down, Luxembourg will be happy to be playing the next 10 minutes with a man advantage and having reduced the deficit on the scoreboard. But it's Sweden who have the ball, who are decidedly playing it through the hands now that they have significant territory inside the Luxembourg half, very central on the pitch. And they go into contact there. There seemed to be a little bit of a head contact. Matt Dennis Soto signifies that there was an elbow brought up as the Sweden player went into contact. And there certainly seemed to be contact around the head. The referee is not accepting anything, and he's indeed, as Sweden enter the 22 of Luxembourg, the referee's hand was held out to signify an advantage for Sweden. So Sweden, using that advantage, decide to kick, and Luxembourg desperately defending. And Sweden, slow ball here. Luxembourg defending hard. This is not where Luxembourg want to be. And Sweden will just try to use the power and the strength against the lighter Luxembourg side here. The referee looking, it's very, very messy on the touchline. The referee tried to see where the ball is, and he signifies that the ball is held up. That's great defensive work by Luxembourg. Sweden will have to do better. They're very slow at getting the ball around, and there's a little bit of afters there. The Swedish players pushing a few Luxembourg players. The frustration growing on being so close. They were within a whisker of the Luxembourg try line there. But having been held up, Luxembourg will have the chance to drop out from their own try line. The referee taking the opportunity to have a word with the captains here. There's been a little bit of niggle. A few words between the players. Nothing really to write home about. The referee just making sure that the players keep it under wraps. So, we have a little bit of a break in play. The referee seems to be happy to have a little bit of a chat with the players in the sunshine. And he's asked the captains to bring their respective teams together and pass on the referee's message. And why not? It's a sunny evening. The clock is stopped. And now we can get back to the serious business of a rugby game. And Luxembourg clear the ball upfield, but it doesn't make touch, and it does make touch. The Sweden second row on the edge of the touchline, attempting to keep the ball into play, but the ball slipped through his fingers, and having touched the ball will give Luxembourg the possession that they want. Just inside their own half, a line out for Luxembourg. Not the straightest line out in the world. The referee seems more content than he. And Luxembourg play it out through hands, but they're still within their own half. And so the ball goes up high onto the halfway line. Luxembourg jump in the air for the ball. There seemed to be a bit of a push. And then after there was a collision of players from both sides, and there seems to be a little bit of concern from the players there, so maybe there was some contact between heads, and indeed the Sweden player appears to have blood pouring from his head, so this may be a more significant break than the last. Time is off the clock. Both sets of players take another opportunity to have a chat in the sun. And the players will get their medical attention. I expect this to be a few minutes in order to clean up the blood. Potential blood replacements warming up on the sideline. But what it does allow the teams to get together, to regroup. After 16 minutes of this game, which has been quite territorial kicking. And no real clean breaks. Nothing inventive as yet. Both sides looking for the territory, looking to gain that territory and try to get the possession that they need to get points on the board. Sweden getting one try, conversion 2, meaning they've got their 7 points. Luxembourg getting their penalty kick from just inside the Sweden half. But Sweden missing out when it looked as if they were destined to go over the Luxembourg line, but being held up and allowing Luxembourg to clear their ranks, which in the end has resulted in this head contact, and the referee won't be happy for the Sweden player to continue with so much blood, so he will be at least temporarily placed. There's a blood injury, and to see if he can be cleaned up and could retake some participation in this game. I'm unsure if this is really a permanent replacement or if it's a blood replacement, but judging by the amount of blood and the medical team not being able to put a stop to that, it could actually be a permanent. And also Luxembourg will replace their inside centre. He walks off the pitch with a bandage around his head, which indicates that maybe the blood has stopped, but there is a lot of blood, and if that's a head injury, both players should be conducting a head injury assessment. So Sweden from here kick the ball quite deep into the Luxembourg territory. Right on the edge of the 22. That was a much less conservative kick than I anticipated at that stage. But here we are after oh, and the news is that the Luxembourg player who went off the pitch has had received a red card for the head contact during the challenge. So Luxembourg really up against it now. Even if Sweden are down to 14 men for the next just under 5 minutes, Luxembourg will play the rest of this game with only 14 men, which is a huge challenge. Already underdogs Luxembourg. Underdogs now destined to play in 5 minutes time with a man less. They will really need to show that they are the Red Lions. So Sweden inside the Luxembourg 22, trying to feed on. The fact that Luxembourg must be feeling quite dejected, having lost a man to a red card, but Luxembourg kicked the ball away. And the Luxembourg player seemed to be taken out as he cleared the ball. The referee's putting his hand towards his pocket and he administers a yellow card to Fintan Lawler. So Luxembourg really up against it now. Underdogs before the game. And within the space of a minute, they lose a man to a red card and then lose a second man to a yellow card. So the game is very much turned. Sweden, who had lost a man themselves to a yellow card for 10 minutes, and will shortly get the man back, are now facing a team with one man less than them, and knowing that they will only ever be 14 men during the continuity of this game. Luxembourg will be a bit numb from what just happened within the space of 1 or 2 minutes. They will have to reassess. Their playmaker, their number 10, Fintan Lawler, will not be on the pitch for the next 10 minutes. Their inside centre has received a red card. They will need to reorganise. And Sweden will just now probe. They will look for the gaps in this Luxembourg side now that they have the numerical advantage. And it's already not the game that Luxembourg would want. Luxembourg would want a much quicker flowing game. They would want to be able to attack broken defences, and that's not what's happening here. It's a very conservative game. It's a very territorial kicking game. It's Sweden inside the Luxembourg 22 now with the numerical advantage and with the man over, but the Sweden fullback races through the gap and goes over the line to put 5 more points on the board for Sweden. So following this try, Sweden will, from a wider angle, try to add the 2 points. But there will be disarray in the ranks of the Luxembourg team right now. Sweden looking to put the 2 points from this conversion on the board. The kick looks long, and it is. It's well over the posts. So Sweden now up to 14 points compared to Luxembourg's 3. The scoreboard temporarily showing that Sweden had 15 points. It's now been corrected. Luxembourg restarts, Sweden gather. Luxembourg will just be happy to be in Sweden's half now. Matthew Dennis Soto trying to jackal over. But the Sweden defence clearing out. The scrum half prepares to box kick high into the Luxembourg sky. And gathered by Luxembourg. And he kicks it forward. It's controlled at the feet by the Sweden player. Offloaded. And played back. And Luxembourg will look to dink the ball through and chase it through, and he's there, and there's 2 Luxembourg players. They have to be careful here. And Sweden very savvy in defence and getting the look of the bounce. Everything's going for Sweden right now. A big clearance upfield. The bounce takes it into touch, and that will have relieved that pressure that Luxembourg were exerting. So even if we only have an 11-point difference here, Luxembourg must readapt to the position where they find themselves. And they gather the ball. There seems to be a high challenge there. The referee doesn't signal anything. And Luxembourg will look to kick out through the scrum half here. Again, looking for territory. The ball bounces dead. It bounces back towards the Luxembourg player. Matthew Dennis Soto gathers. Luxembourg sensing that they could gain something here. They have the penalty for they have a knock-on advantage. And the referee brings it back as the ball was lost by the Luxembourg player finally. Luxembourg players looking there to gather themselves. Luxembourg now 2 men down. Luxembourg put in at the scrum. The ball comes out very quickly. The Sweden number 9 seems to be around the corner very quick himself, but Luxembourg fullback tries to scarp it through midfield. The fullback of Luxembourg plays the ball. A little bit of a dink. Luxembourg playing it through hands. This is what Luxembourg want. They play it again, offload and offload into Sweden's 22. And this is what Luxembourg want. They want a fast game. They want to play that ball through hands. And the ball's continuity. That's what Luxembourg want here. It's not pretty. The Swedish defence will have time to realign. There will be a touch through there. And Sweden will cook to touch. But that's exactly what Luxembourg need right now. They need the continuity, the fluidity of the ball passing through hand. They don't want this static first 25 minutes of what they've had to go through. They want to be dynamic. So Luxembourg into the Sweden half, playing through hands, playing it through the forwards. This is precisely what they want. There's a knock on there by Sweden. And it's actually a penalty that Luxembourg received from the referee here. The players seem to be content to kick towards the posts. Sweden currently not taking advantage of this having this number advantage here. They're not pushing the ball into the right positions. And Luxembourg, knowing that they don't have their first choice kicker on the pitch, although he will join the fray in 2 minutes' time, will use their fullback Barish to add 3 points, which he does. Luxembourg 6, Sweden 14. A sense of optimism for Luxembourg. So an interestingly cagey game this. Seemingly there for the taking. 8-point difference. Numerical advantage, swinging one way then the next. And Luxembourg clear from their own 22. And in 1 minute, Luxembourg will get another player back on the pitch. But they've done quite well in the meantime. So, Sweden line out, just inside the Luxembourg half. Taken by Sweden, gathered, played into midfield through hands. Luxembourg defender pushed back on to a sitting position. But Luxembourg trying to jackal over, not being happy, coming in from behind, and the scrum half is really fighting for Luxembourg, trying to bring his teammates with him here. Sweden go back into their own half here. They're losing territory as they play the ball. You would not consider that they had the numerical advantage at this stage, but still, the important factor is they have possession. But once again, Luxembourg are up on them, very quick, very energetic, greedy for the ball. And Sweden clear high. And it's knocked on by the Luxembourg player. And the referee has played advantage as much as he could. Just when it looked like Sweden were going to go straight under the posts. So Luxembourg will be happy that that advantage did not pay off. Sweden will simply have the scrum on the edge of the Luxembourg 22. And the further good news is that the Luxembourg number 10, Fintan Lawler, is back on the pitch. So what seemed to be a very difficult first half for Luxembourg some minutes ago now looks better on the scoreboard. If not territorially wise on the pitch. And Sweden play the ball with their number 8 from the back of the pack here, and they break through. They look to go over in the corner, Sweden. But it's tough defence by Luxembourg. Tough defence. Sweden look to be taking advantage of the overlap there. And somehow Luxembourg are just preventing them. They'll need more of the same of what happened earlier in this game. They'll need a turnover. They won't want to be here right now. Sweden will look to press, they gather the ball, they look to form the maul, they'll look to drive Luxembourg over their own try line. Luxembourg try to filter it out towards the touch line. And then they go back into the maul, they're looking to bring it over the try line. Luxembourg have this maul static, it's not moved for some time, but now it's into midfield. It's under the post, there is an overlap, the defence is stretched. And that's what Sweden needed to do. They had the overlap out wide. They played it from the right-hand side of the pitch of the maul. The Luxembourg defence were committed to the maul. And Sweden cleverly pushed the ball where they knew they had a player wide. So the score now, after 32 minutes, is Luxembourg 6, Sweden 19. As the Swedish kicker lines up a kick at the post to add another 2 points to the scoreboard. So, unsuccessful conversion kick by Sweden means they remain on 19 points. Luxembourg look to restart the game with just under 7 minutes of this first half remaining. Onto the edge of the 22, Sweden lift their player into the air to gather the ball. Slow ball from Sweden, as you'd expect inside their own half here. And the number 9 will look to box kick up into Luxembourg territory. And Sweden seem to be doing this quite successfully now. But the kick was outside the 22. Went straight into touch. And it means Luxembourg will not be taking a line out from their own half. They will be taking a line out from the edge of the Sweden 22. And this will again buoy the Luxembourg team. Now they have possession. Now they have territory. And they gather the line out. And they play it out through the backs. Into the 22. The ball goes backwards. Not gathered by the Luxembourg player. Which means that the Swedish defence will have time to restructure. And Luxembourg look to go through their forwards. They look to probe here. And now into the backs. One way with the forwards, switching it the other way with the backs. Into the forwards again, and he spots the gap. He goes. Luxembourg into the 22. They're looking to penetrate there. Close to the try line. The ball is lost here. Seems to be a bit of a block by a Swedish player. The referee's very close. Decides everything's fine. And Sweden clear that ball into touch. That was an opportunity for Luxembourg. That was an opportunity that they need to take. From the mistake of the kick from Sweden, Luxembourg then had both territory and possession. And they probed under the posts of Sweden, but they just didn't manage to keep control of the ball. So they'll look to reset. More of the same. Inside the Sweden half. The ball won by Luxembourg. Gathered once again into midfield. And so the probing begins again. No more kicking in this game. Possession is everything. And again, in the tackle, the Luxembourg player loses the ball forward. And it's costing Luxembourg. Small errors, small margins. Not allowing Luxembourg to get back into this game. Sweden just absorbing the pressure and profiting from these little errors that are coming their way. Sweden will be sitting pretty here with a 13-point lead. Albeit not the most convincing lead from what we can witness on the pitch. So Sweden, scrum. They put the ball in. And the number 9 tries to go down the blind side, and he's going to get ball out of play, but he continues, he breaks up, and the ball sneaks through into the Luxembourg 22. Some of these broken plays just do not appear to be going Luxembourg's way. Now we have a medic on the pitch for a Luxembourg prop receiving some attention, and they'll want him back in play as they defend in their own 22. Well, they're in their own 22, but they will have possession at the line out. There was attempted clearances by the Luxembourg players, but the ball managed to trickle through, and it's now gathered by Luxembourg. It's played into their back row forward, Tony Drennan, into contact with his Swedish counterpart, and they kick the ball high, and the ball is gathered. Two Luxembourg players look to tackle Sweden on the halfway line here, going back into their own territory, looking to play the ball through hand now, seeing that there should always be an overlap here as they break through. They always seem to have an extra player. They need the tackles, and the tackles are just not coming. Two missed tackles by Luxembourg. And we're just approaching the last minute of this first half as Sweden race forward again, 24 points to 3. And you just get the feeling that nothing really is going right for Luxembourg, and Sweden don't have to do too much to force the issue.
Thomas.
Luxembourg gather under their posts as Sweden prepare for the conversion kick. But it will be a challenging half time for new Luxembourg coach James Kent. And once again, the kick sails past the post, so the score remains Luxembourg 6, Sweden 24, and we're well into the last minute of this first half. An 18-point difference as we stand. Last action of the game as the ball sails up. Sweden, if they're aware it's last action, would do well to kick this ball into touch. It seems they don't, and they kick into Luxembourg's half. Who return the favour. Sweden in their own 22 now. Much like the start of this game, the end of the second half ends with both teams kicking for territorial advantage. And indeed, that was the last action. The referee didn't have a different watch than that of the scoreboard. And Sweden will be quite happy to go in at half-time with their numerical advantage, with their scoreboard advantage. And not having to do too much inventiveness to get that lead.
Allez les gars!
Luxembourg will hope for a second half.
Allez les gars, allez! Allez, allez, allez!
Luxembourg will need to reassess that. Coaches will need to buoy the players. They're playing in front of a home crowd here. They knew they were underdogs for this game. And as I said before, they relish the fact that they will be underdogs. What they will not have relished is receiving a red card and losing points at the same time. But here we are. And once again, we enter into part 2 of this showcasing of ladies rugby in Luxembourg, where we will have a small sevens demonstration of ladies rugby. So as the players re-enter the pitch, and we look up the scoreboard, seeing Luxembourg 6, Sweden 24. Sweden will simply look to maintain this advantage, and play out the rest of the game as much as they can, with Luxembourg in deficit. Luxembourg seem to have come out buoyed from their half-time discussions. Sweden have made substitution. Luxembourg seem eager, they seem buoyant. They seem to believe that, albeit underdogs, albeit a man down to a red card, albeit 18 points down in this game, they still have 40 minutes to turn this around. They still have 40 minutes to put errors right and make this game look something more competitive. But it's Sweden who have the ball inside the Luxembourg half, just inside the halfway line. Sweden secure the ruck, ball played into hands, looking to play crash ball, going into contact, looking to wear the Luxembourg defence down already. Luxembourg get a handy charge down that play there, and it's in the hands of the scrum half, who bursts into the Sweden 22 on the left wing. Luxembourg have control of the ball, they'll need some numbers there, and yet they won't want to overcommit. They'll still want to have players out wide. And the ball is played out to the wing here on the right wing, with not many options, so the right winger uses his strength there to control the ball, and Luxembourg do have to put more men into the ruck now. So the buoyant attitude of the Luxembourg players here paying off for them at this moment. And it's Sweden's turn to solidly defend. And Luxembourg will keep the ball in hand. They're not kicking for territory here. They're not looking to give Sweden possession of the ball. And they're looking to control the game. But now they kick high into the air, down the right wing. Sweden look together, and they call the mark just as the Luxembourg forwards, two Luxembourg forwards, were descending on the Sweden player there. So it will be a dropout, and the ball lands just behind me. So as I receive a few hackles there because the ball came my way, Luxembourg take a short line out and they keep the ball in. Clever little offloading, close quarters by Luxembourg, and a quick nip through by Fintan Lawler, who looks to gather. He doesn't gather, but Luxembourg do gather, and they go over the line, and Luxembourg have come out buoyant in this second half. They're not sitting back on their haunches. The Red Lions of Luxembourg looking to show themselves, show the spirit that they have within this young team. And they put the first points on the board. Fintan Lawler, creativity in the centre of midfield there, just dinking the ball over the top into the Sweden 22, and now he'll look for the conversion directly in front of the posts. And we have game on. 2 more points for Luxembourg. Luxembourg 13, Sweden 24, and now we have a game. The Luxembourg crowd are buoyant here. They sense that they're not out of this game, both crowd and players. And this is what we want. Sweden themselves are now being asked a question. And And they have to answer these questions, otherwise this Luxembourg side will come at them incessantly. And Luxembourg gather the restart into their own 22. And up into the air again. Luxembourg had some success from their kicks. And this time Sweden not allowed to call the mark. The ball's not in their own 22, but there is a bit of an overlap here. Luxembourg winger looks to keep the player into touch, but Sweden, forward pass maybe. Dennis Soto, the Luxembourg prop, trying to dictate to the referee maybe that the scrum should have been a little bit forward, albeit 5 meters, and then gives a knowing smile, but that was never going to happen. So, the Swedish players just seem very cool and collected. Still content with their lead, which has now been reduced to 11 points. Luxembourg looking to be inventive, looking to be dynamic, looking to be quick through the hands, looking to probe with the high kicks. Nobody really chasing this time around. But the ball is in the Sweden half. Sweden look to go into contact, bringing the ball down. Luxembourg have been a little bit off in the contact. And another charge down by Luxembourg, and they gather the ball. The charge down, the Luxembourg player that charged it down tried to jackal over, but Sweden just get the ball back into their own 22 and clear it up towards the halfway line, into touch. Luxembourg seeing a lot of possession now in this second half. Well, the reduction of the Luxembourg team to 14 men has undoubtedly had an impact in this game. Sweden have managed to find the overlaps which have enabled them to gather their 24 points. Nevertheless, Luxembourg are sticking to their game plan. The heads have not gone down. And as they've proved in this second half, being the only team to put points on the board, they should have optimism that they can add further, but tiredness will tell. 14 players on the pitch will get tired. But they play it out, Luxembourg, and they play it out to the wing, and it's gathered, and it's kicked forward by the right winger, and the ball goes into touch, just into the try area, not into touch, into the try area. And Sweden touchdown, so they'll drop out from their own try line here. Quick, clever, inventive play by Luxembourg. And the drop ball from the Luxembourg forward there, as he was trying to gather from the Sweden dropout, shows a little bit of frustration and disappointment on the Luxembourg's players' faces, knowing that they are forcing Sweden back into their own 22, and they wanted to keep the possession there and run it back towards them. But now we're inside the Sweden half. Sweden put in at the scrum, and we appear to have a game on our hands. Luxembourg bench preparing a substitution. Looks like a second row replacement. As the ball is in the scrum, Sweden scrum half will play the ball out to his forwards, ball to hand, going out towards the right wing. Luxembourg will be careful not to overload their defence centrally, otherwise they're going to always have that overlap, Sweden. Sweden carrying the ball into the Luxembourg half, always seemingly to have a player extra, which would make sense. But we really do have a game here. Luxembourg looking not downhearted in the position that they find themselves, looking to gather the ball. But the little errors are sneaking in every time that are just preventing them from maintaining that possession. This time a knock-on the edge of their own 22. It's just not helping Luxembourg's cause right now. Sweden are benefiting from this. And as the Luxembourg substitute enters the pitch, he decides to slips and decides to do a little cartwheel, which is fun for the crowd. So the Luxembourg substitution confirmed, and this is an area of the game where we may see changes to the dynamic of the game as teams use their bench. Luxembourg will need to use their bench, while Sweden, with their man advantage, will look to tire the Luxembourg team now. And they do seem to have this overlap each time they come round, and they're looking to create that overlap. Stretch the Luxembourg defence. And there's a gap there, and the Sweden player charges through towards the goal line, very central. Ball was gathered by the Luxembourg scrum half. The referee calls back play to what appears to be an earlier infringement. Hand out signals that Sweden will have possession at this scrum. Luxembourg penalised again at the scrum. Sweden look to overlap here once again, but they appear to knock forward in contact with the Luxembourg defender, and this is jubilant from the Luxembourg players, high-fiving each other. Luxembourg looking to win the small battles here. Looking to try to get into the heads of the Sweden players. With possession now, Luxembourg, they might just be able to do that. Still within their own 22, Luxembourg. Sweden will look to keep them there. The back three of Sweden readily anticipating A kick from Luxembourg to improve their territorial position. But Luxembourg played centrally through the hands of their fullback. And this time it looks as if it will be a kick high into the air. Not much distance on it, but it does go up towards the halfway line. It's juggled by the Sweden player there. Luxembourg look to jackal over. Hands on the ball there by Matthew Dennis Soto. Referee says nothing doing. And the Sweden number 8 barges through midfield. Luxembourg defence starting to look a little bit tired. The front 5 of Luxembourg. Sweden gather on the right wing. There appears to be no overlap there, but Sweden will need to swing this ball around if they want to take advantage of that. But at the moment they're not. They're playing it through the midfield here. They don't appear to have too much of an overlap, but that's due to the Luxembourg defence quickly shuffling across and channeling defenders to cover. But Sweden offloading game, passing it through, and they're in a 3-on-1. But he goes the wrong side. He looks to pass right. He had 2 players to his left. Luxembourg defence. If the Sweden player there had gone left, he had 2 players to offload to, and it looked a certain try-scoring opportunity. Nevertheless, they have possession of the ball. They're out on the right wing. They'll look to probe again. They'll look to wear this tiring Luxembourg defence down. But Luxembourg gain possession back. And they'll look to secure the ruck here. But the tiredness will need to be a deep kick into touch to allow the players to stroll up to the line out. Tired legs, no chasing of kick balls here as we enter the 55th minute of this game. So, Luxembourg, possession at the line out, look to gather the ball. They lose the ball forward. They won the ball, but they lose the ball forward. The referee will be playing advantage here. Sweden play the ball through hands, and they themselves knock on. I don't think an advantage had been played in the first instance, so maybe it wasn't seen or called a knock on by the referee for Luxembourg. But he's called it now for Sweden, who decide to replace 2 of their forward players to bring fresh legs on here. Luxembourg surely ready to do the same. So, centrally on the halfway line, Luxembourg put in at the scrum. Sweden looking to exert some pressure on that scrum with the fresh legs. Luxembourg looking to be inventive with their backs, and they go out on the right wing and the ball goes into touch. It was a good tackle by the Sweden left winger there. Seems to have picked up a knock as he did so. So it will be a line out here, just on the edge of the Sweden 22. Possession to Sweden. So after the early dynamic start by Luxembourg, Sweden then mounted a relative pressure of their own on the Luxembourg 22. And now we have territory in Luxembourg's favour, possession in Sweden's favour. Sweden gather the ball. A little bit unclearly from the line out. Nevertheless, they have possession. The Luxembourg scrum half tried to tackle the Sweden forward. It's a knock-on. The referee notes advantage of the knock-on. was a little bit too messy. There seemed to be a little bit of afters between some of the players. I didn't really take note. I was following the ball. So the referee will call in the Luxembourg scrum half. Give him a nice smile.
Thomas.
Tell him just to cut down on the silly business and ask him to put the ball in at a scrum.
I got the blues.
And Luxembourg here will bring on 2 replacements. Noe Tropiani goes into the back row to replace Chobi Sweetman. And the Luxembourg fullback Barras is replaced in the back line. So, fresh legs for both sides. And as I keep saying, Luxembourg will want to be dynamic here. They want to be quick in these remaining 32, 33 minutes of the game. 23 minutes of the game, sorry. Luxembourg play it out through their number 8 and number 9. They managed to keep possession of the ball. It's not the cleanest. Luxembourg kick through into touch. Sweden trying to charge the ball down. It will be Swedish possession here. And Sweden will try to puncture through the Luxembourg defence within their own half. And here, the Sweden scrum half kicks the ball high into the Luxembourg sky once again. Gathered by Fintan Lawler, the Luxembourg number 10. The scrum is contained. The Luxembourg fly half, scrum half will repay the favour and kick the ball high, and then it's kicked deep down the line into the Sweden 22. A little bit of a collision between the Luxembourg chaser there with the Swedish ball gatherer, but Sweden carry the ball out of their own 22, and Sweden have overlaps here. They have players advantage, and they break. They have 2 players to the left. If they play it left, and Luxembourg will have to close down here, and it's a wrap tackle by the Luxembourg right wing, and he gathers the ball, and this is surely a penalty for Luxembourg, and that's jubilant again. That was a certain try by Sweden. Sweden had 2 players to pass the ball out to. There was 1 defender home. He didn't drift across to the second player. He did what he had to do. He stuck with the ball carrier. The ball carrier of Sweden should have offloaded. He decided to go into contact. That was the wrong decision. And the Luxembourg right winger just tackled the player, stood up, jackled over, locked the ball up, won the penalty. And this will give more hope to Luxembourg that Sweden are not taking the opportunities when they have overlaps like that. And as we enter now the final 20 minutes of the game, Sweden with an 11-point advantage. Luxembourg 13, Sweden 24. The Luxembourg number 8, Tony Drennan, receiving treatment on the pitch. Sweden choosing to replace another player. This is the moment, another player getting treatment for some cramped up muscles on the Sweden side. And Luxembourg chatting in their own 22. So, inside the 22 of Luxembourg. Luxembourg will kick to touch. from the penalty. Ball is gathered in the crowd. Luxembourg will have a line out, midway between their 22 and the halfway line. Sweden will look to steal. They look eager at the line out, but Luxembourg gather the ball. They play it into their midfield. Callum Trees, debutant boy for Luxembourg here, playing at outside centre, gathers the ball, maintains possession. Luxembourg kick deep. It's gathered by Sweden forwards. Foot seemed to be into touch there. Line judge deems it not to have been. And from the resulting ruck, Sweden do well to maintain possession of that ball. But Luxembourg defends up quick. They want to keep Sweden there, but Sweden now, this is where the overlap exists. And once again, they're reluctant to use the overlap. It seems a fairly clear and obvious tactic, because they are getting men out wide, but as has happened on numerous occasions here, the Swedish ball carriers are just going into contact rather than offloading. I don't think Luxembourg would do the same were they in the same position. Well, currently they're not. Luxembourg are on the defensive. Sweden are pushing into the 22 of Luxembourg. Keeping solid heads about them, Sweden. They obviously know where they want to play. They're happy with the ball in hand. They're happy going into contact and looking to break the tackle. And indeed, the outside centre of Sweden nips through, spots the gap, and is over the line. And Sweden, just calm and collected, walk back towards their own half as if it was business as usual. Luxembourg, time to regather under the posts as Sweden attempt the conversion kick. So as I say, Luxembourg, they came out with a lot of energy in the second half. They showed themselves, they put points on the board. But with 14 men, it was inevitable that there was going to be tiredness. Physical tiredness, mental tiredness. And as Sweden convert the try and extend their lead, we look up the scoreboard and we see Luxembourg 13, Sweden 31. Luxembourg will look to be buoyant now. There will be tired feet, but they need to push. They need to be courageous. They need to take a risk here, because the next score is so important for them. Into the Luxembourg half. Kicked high by the Luxembourg fly half. He chases the ball down and takes the Swedish player who gathered the ball in the air, but the advantage is played, and now we see Sweden taking advantage. They run through unopposed. Not much in the way of tackles coming from Luxembourg, and finally, having come out of the second half buoyant, the Luxembourg appear to put hands on heads. The game is very much running away from them now, and it's difficult to see how they can turn this around. There's just over 15 minutes left in the game. It would appear that they are simply playing for pride. Sweden, on the other hand, once again, they just look calm and collected. They're not trying to do anything fancy. They just seem to be doing what they do best, and that's put points on the scoreboard. So despite not using the overlaps when they've been in the position, they have found the gaps through midfield that they've managed to run through. So, changes for Luxembourg at loose head and tight head prop. And a third change, maybe at the next break in play, which I would expect to be a second row replacement for Luxembourg. Luxembourg with possession inside Sweden half. Probing. They will need to be inventive here. Dynamic. This is inventive by Fintan Lola, who chases the ball. He tries to gather. He doesn't manage to get his hands on the ball. The referee is not signaling anything. Luxembourg are in the Swedish 22, but Sweden have possession. They have a small overlap here, which they could use if they want. He's not using at the moment. And then he does on the inside. The overlap was on the outside. He used it on the inside. Seemed to be a little bit of a knock-on. And this time, Luxembourg managed to defend the overlap. The referee just getting in the way a little bit there. And Sweden looking to put more points on the board, but they seem to be getting locked up at the ruck. But now, this is where Luxembourg must get out wide. There are two players waiting for the ball carrier. But the ball carrier doesn't need the two wide players. Sweden are actually better at finding the gap centrally than using the man out wide. And as tiredness creeps more and more into these players, and the substitutions will disrupt the game somewhat. Luxembourg look to bring on another forward player and another player in the back line. These new players will be playing just for pride of the Red Lion and the jersey that they are playing in tonight. Because the score is running away as Sweden look to add 2 points to the scoreboard. The touch judges signal a successful conversion, and Sweden move up to 45 points compared to Luxembourg's 13. Luxembourg scrum half was arguably one of Luxembourg's best players this evening. Exit the pitch, and Yared Katima, wearing number 23, enters the back line for Luxembourg. High ball by Sweden into the air. Luxembourg gather, look to play it out. They look to be locked up in the ruck, but the ball is freed. Played out by Fintan Lola. I'm unsure if he's switched to the scrum half position from his usual fly half. It would appear that that's the case following that box kick. And a mistake by Sweden inside their own half. With 69 minutes played of this game. A little under 11 minutes left for Luxembourg to gain back a little bit of pride, to give themselves something to work on for the next game coming up against Poland here at the Stade de Luxembourg. next weekend. Luxembourg line out, taken. Luxembourg play the ball into midfield. They gather. Fresh feet, fresh legs into contact in midfield. A little bit of inventiveness. Is he going for a 50-22? No, it's not. There's somebody home on the right wing for Sweden. Sweden have possession. Playing a little bit of a juggling act here. It will be a box kick once again by the Sweden scrum half. Two Luxembourg players back home, but it doesn't reach them. It will be a chase, a foot race here, which Sweden win. And they manage to offload, breaking into the Luxembourg 22. And they still have possession. It's not the cleanest. But the ball's not going to hands for Sweden. They're running back. Luxembourg just hold on, but Sweden go over for yet another try. Frustration in the Luxembourg ranks, and Sweden show that all during this game, nothing fancy, nothing over technical, just a steady rhythm, sticking to their game plan, playing territory, playing into the contact, which Luxembourg themselves don't want to do. And it's resulted in them racking up 50 points on the scoreboard compared to Luxembourg's 13. The crowd respect the kicker, who hooks the kick wide, but he walks away with a smile, knowing that his team have enough points on the board. So we're into the last 8 minutes here. Luxembourg to restart. Luxembourg crowd cheering on their team, understanding that their team were in the first half reduced to 14 men and had an uphill battle, already being underdogs. Sweden being strong team, competing in this Rugby Europe trophy with Poland and the Czech Republic for the top three. Luxembourg themselves, as I said earlier, in the mini league with Lithuania and Croatia. And it will be another tough outing for Luxembourg next weekend against Poland. But as we stand, Sweden exerting pressure, playing the ball now, breaking into the Luxembourg 22. The Luxembourg defence just starting to hold on now. It seems incessant wave after wave of attack from the restart for Luxembourg. Sweden controlling the ruck, looking to put the ball into the hands. Zero overlap now. Sweden know they will get their rewards from midfield if they find the gaps in the Luxembourg defence, which they've done on a few occasions this game. And it's something that James Kent will be eager to rectify within a space of 7 days. Sweden keep going, they're strong on their feet, they drive their feet. Luxembourg just trying to get tacklers in there, knowing that the scoreboard is against them, knowing that time is not their friend, knowing that they cannot change the outcome of this game. And all this plays mentally, of course, and it plays mentally even more as Sweden score at the base of the post to put another 5 points. Sweden 55 points on the scoreboard. demoralising now for Luxembourg. Gathering under the post, asking themselves if they have a big 5 minutes just to give their crowd something to show for their endeavours this evening. Sweden just walking back as their scrum half prepares the kick. Inevitably, centrally as the kick was, the kick is successful. And Sweden look to reload once again. Nothing dramatic. Going about their job. Luxembourg. Give your home crowd 5 minutes. Give them a big 5 minutes. And the ball breaks towards the Sweden try line. Luxembourg bring the player down. And he has to touch down. This will be scrum Luxembourg 5 meters out from the Sweden try line. So this is the 5 minutes. The big 5 minutes that the Luxembourg crowd are asking their team to do. Scrum 5 meters. Get something back from this game. Nobody on the right wing for Luxembourg. That's where they have no interest to attack. They're not going down the narrow side. They're not going down the blind side. They're all open here. They will look to control this. Through the forwards, Tony Drennan, number 8, goes over. The referee signals that maybe the ball is held up, or maybe he did a double movement. He's claiming a double movement. Tony Drennan had the ball. He had the try line in his sight. He wanted to answer this Luxembourg crowd's pleas and cries for some points in these closing minutes. And he had the try line in his sight, but he was just tackled short. And he did a double movement. As the ball comes flying towards me there. So Sweden line out. After my cameraman here nearly had his camera equipment taken out. Sweden on the edge of their 22. With 2 minutes remaining on the clock here. Clear the ball into this Luxembourg evening sky. Fintan Lawler looking to what to do. Decides to be inventive. Deserves to carry. Pops the ball up. Yes, Luxembourg boys, charging towards the Sweden 22 here. Possession Luxembourg. They've been beaten in this second half, Luxembourg.
Come on, boys!
Sweden have put tries past them. They've put points on the board. But this Luxembourg team are eager to show what they're about, to show that they're a team that deserves to be in this division of the Rugby Europe trophy. They're not just here to make up the numbers. They want to show what they're all about. Luxembourg probing left to right. Eddie Greybrook takes the ball to ground. Luxembourg maintain possession of the ball, pushing towards the Sweden try line. This would be the finish that Luxembourg wanted. It's not going to be the result they want by any means. It's not going to be the evening that they wanted. Things have gone against them. Red card.
Yes, boys! Run!
They play it out to the right wing. Luxembourg still have possession. We're into the last 30 seconds of this game.
Keep it in.
Luxembourg hungry for points. The referee making sure that the Swedish defence is honest and onside. little bit of a wry pass, tried to be clever, but Luxembourg maintain possession. They go into contact, but it's a lot of hard work. But it's the last few seconds of this game of hard work, and Luxembourg won't mind to do that. Sweden playing their part, preventing Luxembourg from getting the points that they are truly hungry for. And Luxembourg do get their points. They do get the points that they were looking for in that last 5 minutes. This has been a game that was taken away by the underdogs early on by a red card. Sweden played their part. They didn't go overboard. They didn't try anything fancy. Luxembourg suffered from some errors. They competed. They were hit heavy. They came out second half. They put a try on the board. Sweden then took control as the legs tired. But Luxembourg have given this crowd something to cheer about. And this is what rugby's all about. You fight until the end. You don't give up. And this is exactly what Fintan Lawler will want here. He knows time is up. He knows Sweden have 57 points, Luxembourg 18, but he wants to make it Luxembourg 20. Silence, hush for the kicker. And it just slices slightly wide. An intriguing game. A very intriguing game. Sweden, solid, showing why they are competitive against Poland and the Czech Republic in this division. Luxembourg, always the underdog and relishing that. Trying to play their game, but ultimately suffering from the red card. But they'll be back for more.